Hey there. So today I'm going to talk about a very nice book called Pitch Anything. Basically, it's about an innovative method of presenting, persuading, and winning the deal. This book provides a comprehensive guide to delivering a compelling and effective pitch. So if you want to be more persuasive, have a pitch to make, even if it's outside your business world, and need to understand the psychology of business interactions, right? So very nice book, and I think you will enjoy the insights which I am going to share with you. So basically, the first part, let's talk about the introduction. So there is often a very huge gap between the way you think you appear when you are pitching and the way your target audience is actually receiving your pitch. So you are thinking of all complexities and details of your pitch, wherein your target audience is actually trying to avoid your entire pitch at all costs, right? So instead of getting caught up in numbers and analysis, basically you should target the emotional centers of your target's brain. So this is very important, that you should actually know that your target is actually using his crocodile brain per se, when they are receiving the pitch, right? And then you have to keep in mind the four aspects of successful pitches, right? The first is the social frames. So when you enter a pitch, you need to be able to bust your target's frame, and you should be able to take control of your environment. The beta traps. Beta traps are meant to force you into a lower social position, and you should avoid them. So I'm going to talk in details about all these different types. This is just a highlight. And you should keep your pitches very short, simple, exciting, and focused on you and your idea at all times. And always remember, it's just a game. So you should not, even if your pitches sometimes don't work, you should not basically get too bogged down. Now let's start with the first part, the method. So everyone needs a pitch, needs to pitch something at some point in time in their lives. So if you are not pitching a deal, you might have to pitch for a raise or negotiate prices. But there is always a disconnect between the way the pitch is made and how it's received. When you are pitching something, you are using your neocortex, while the part of that brain that's associated with complex organized concepts. And the problem is that the pitch recipient isn't actually thinking through its neocortex. They are thinking with their crocodile brain, as I mentioned before. So the crocodile brain is deep in the center of the brain, and it's where emotions like fear and excitement originates. It's not at all good in complexity, so it hates numbers. It can get bored easily, which means that whatever you are going to say, if it is boring, it's going to be ignored. So the crocodile brain only pays full attention to the most exciting parts of your pitch, good or bad, and view any further complexity as a threat. So please avoid complexity. That is the key message. And the basic objectives of our pitch are, first is we should not trigger a fear reaction of any kind, including a threat to your client's time. So that is very important. And second is make sure that your target hears something very novel or positive, unexpected. That will trigger a positive reaction in their crocodile brain, and the information about your pitch will filter into your target's neocortex on its own, right? So this is about the method. The second part is about the frame, right? So basically, there is a very nice example the author has quoted, that he pitched to a great guy, a titan of a financial industry, and he was very confident. And the author had rehearsed his entire pitch, and I'm sure you will also perhaps kind of resonate with this author's problem. So he had practiced everything nicely, and as soon as he started the pitch, as soon as he entered the conference room, he was told by this great financial titan that all he wanted to know was Tom's monthly expenses and how much he was paying himself. So this caught the author off guard because he was not expecting this, and only those 20 words of the financial titan kind of completely derailed this guy. So I think we all have gone to the pitches and maybe also suffered some setbacks, and this is one of the setbacks. So what are the key insights here? Basically, when you go for a pitch, always remember that everybody has got a different frame, and when the two and the frames will collide, and whoever establishes a winning frame is going to dominate the meeting and of course going to win the pitch. So you should When you lose control and the meeting is on other person's turn, there's no way you can pitch and win. So instead, then you will have to resort to begging techniques. You will start begging, you will become desperate. But if you control the frame and if you deliver an excellent pitch, your target will have little or no choice but to agree with it. So when you enter any pitch, you should first know what kind of a frame you are facing and then counter it intelligently. So people have different types of frames. So let's start with the frame number one, which is the power frame. So power frame guys have big egos, and you have to actually counter the power frame by a power busting frame. So you have to be a little bit defiant towards them, and target something very small, but not to kind of completely threaten them. So it has to be funny and a friendly way. So that's how you tackle the power frame guy. Then the second type of guys are typically the corporate executives, where they use the time frame. So as soon as you go into a meeting, they will look at their watch and try to write something on a piece of paper instead of paying any attention to you. And I'm sure you must have experienced this. So basically, the count in terms of the way you have to counter the frame is, first is tell the people when you are pitching that how much time you're going to require, say 20 minutes, 15 minutes, so that's where you're clear. And then you use the time constraining frame to your advantage. So if you see that they are trying to glance at a watch, you should wrap up your pitch immediately, and and just give the key points and start moving out, and your target will love it. Then you will also meet across the third type of a person called with the analyst frame. So this person loves, these are typical CFOs, and they love dry technical details, and they trip you by forcing you into boring minutes into your neocortex. So you can counteract this with the intrigue frame. Respond to any question the target has about numbers with your preloaded summary data, and then redirect their attention to the existing piece of information about your pitch. And the last one, which is very, very cool, I really liked it, is the price frame. So the price frame can actually burst any frame. In the price frame, you price yourself and your time, and you force your target as well. For instance, if someone with a power frame and a time frame sent an associate instead of themselves, to meet you, you should tell the associates that you could give them 15 minutes to start the pitch meeting you had agreed to with their boss only. Don't start the pitch until the boss, the main person, is in the room. And if he's not there in 15 minutes, you can just leave. Now, it may sound scary to you, but typically, people will then respect that, you have something really worthwhile to talk about. So try this thing as well. I hope you are enjoying the insights, what I'm sharing. Now, the third insight is status. So status is very, very important when you're pitching something, and it's also very important for frame control, right? So you should be always perceived as a person with high status. So whenever you enter any room, everybody kind of subconsciously scans to find who is the dominant alpha in the room. And alpha, they typically, in every meeting, you might find some alpha person, and they will have some traps laid out for you, and you need to be really watchful of them, right? Because these traps are basically, they want to force you into a lower social position. So typically the lobby desk, conference room, public meetings, etc., or beta traps, right? So don't let the beta traps play out. For example, if you go for a meeting and the manager says that let's not meet in my conference room, let's meet in the coffee shop downstairs, this is a typical trap. And typically, you should say that you would like to see the company offices, for example, and make sure that you are trying to get him to the conference room rather than just meeting in some kind of a coffee shop. So that is very, very important. Now, let's talk a little bit about pitching your big idea. So the great thing about pitching is that the better your method is, the more successful your pitch is going to be, right? And this is a method which is going to actually, which will help you win. So first is, when you enter the pitch meeting, set the target at ease and counteract their frames by letting them know that you would be done in 15-20 minutes. Then you might be thinking that's not enough time for explain my brilliant idea. But the fact is that in 1953, biologist James Watson and Francis Crick actually presented the concept of double helix DNA structure, and their structure took 5 minutes, and they also won a Nobel Prize. So if they can pitch one of the greatest discoveries of scientific history in 5 minutes, you should not need more than 20 minutes to efficiently, sell your big idea. So that is very important. So that is the first 5 minutes. The second 5 minutes, you can start by introducing yourself and the idea, give your background, and focus on your success. But don't try to, talk about your entire resume, just the key highlights of you, the great wins you've achieved so far. The target's time and the attention are limited. So they want to know what you have done so well, and and if that's relevant to your pitch. So you should be able, that will enable them to gauge how successfully you will be able to execute the deal. Now, when you are introducing your idea, identify your target customer, the current offerings, see what are they not happy about, and what's the new idea, and the features of that new idea will solve the problem. Next, spend 10 minutes focusing on, talking about your budget, and talking about what really sets you apart. And this is something very important, that emphasize movement. So don't contrast the current situation with the new situation, but you have to talk about the transformation. So currently, where is your prospect right now, and how your product or service is going to help them achieve their goals and objectives, and how they will feel when they achieve success. So that is very, very important. And then the last 2 minutes will be about, what is the kind of offer. So you need to have a very compelling offer, and make sure that you are building a rapport there. And that's how within 20 minutes, you can actually present a great idea. And that's the kind of the right amount of time, right? Now, this is something very important. I'm going to talk about hot cognitions. What are the hot emotional buttons, which you need to really press, right? So, for example, there are cold cognitions and hot cognitions. So cold cognition means talking about numbers and analysis, etc. And people really don't make any decisions based on cold cognitions, right? If everything was happening based on cold cognition, then what would your friendships be like if you decided to be friends with someone just because of the benefits outweigh the cost, right? So emotions and human element is very, very important. And this holds true for business as well. Now, the author gives a very interesting example where Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz was looking for funding for his first chain of cafes. And his first investor told him that his enthusiasm itself was enough and he doesn't need to see his business pitch. So the investor had a hot cognition, a gut feeling that his decision was right without needing to understand all the analytical details. Of course, you need to have all the details in place, but always imagine that people often take decisions based on their gut feeling, and your focus has to be invoke that positivity, in them. And you can actually create this hot cognition by stacking frames. So these are the same frames, you learned before, and now you'll be using them in quick succession. So first, you should start with using the intrigue frame to catch the target's attention. So your idea, you should say that it's very novel, exciting, and share positive information, creating a big hit of dopamine in their crocodile brains, right? So first is excite them. That's very, very important. And then the second part, you will use the price frame, asking the target, can you tell me why I would want to work with you? So now this is something it might seem counterintuitive, but it often works because now you are positioning yourself as an important resource for them to work, right? Third, you can use the time frame where, our brain has got a scarcity bias. So if something looks like it's going to run out, your brain wants to hoard it. So, but you have to be careful. You don't want to apply time pressure in an old-fashioned sales techniques, because then they will always find out that you are just trying to sell and trying to create false scarcity. So focus on, tell them that they can take their time making the decision, but the deal is going to go ahead one way or the other, another, So this is something very important. And then you can also use a moral authority frame. Now, moral of authority frame is like really the highest frame. It is absolutely, moral authority comes from your beliefs, and it doesn't actually bow down to any pressures. So, for example, in real life, doctors have a strong power frames because they are specialized and they save lives. But even doctors could not burst Mother Teresa's authority frame when she was being treated for bacterial pneumonia. So this is very, very important. So I hope you're enjoying the way different frames work and how you are able to go to the pitch. One more thing you have to understand, that you should eradicate neediness. Neediness, it depletes the status and trigger fear in the target's mind. It's a threat to their resources and it will make your target avoid you. So don't show that you are very needy. And the three principles that will counteract neediness is: first, don't want anything. You're not in a meeting because you want something from them. You should be there because your target wants something from you. Now, second, focus on the things you really do well. They will strengthen your price frame. And finally, use a time frame to announce when you will be leaving the encounter. That's where there is no boredom or anxiety. So please don't appear needy. And the final conclusion of this book is: every crocodile brain responds the same way to pitches. If it is boring, it will ignore it. If it is dangerous, it will either fight or run from it. And if it's complicated, it will simplify it. So instead of trying to explain your entire idea, invite your target's crocodile brain to play a game with you. And always remember that you should, even in tense situation, you should be having fun. Remember these three important aspects of pitching: the social frames, the beta traps laid out for you. Make your pitch in a short, simple, exciting way, focused on you, and always be playing the game. The importance of framing is very, very important in this entire book. It involves creating a context for your idea that will really resonate with your audience and help them see the value what you are offering. Here, there are also some nuance points here. I'm going to quickly go through it. First is the hook point. The hook point is the moment when when you capture your audience attention and pick their interest. Klaff emphasizes the importance of crafting a powerful hook point that will keep your audience engaged. Then I also talked about the moment. You need to talk about the moment, how the transformation is going to take place because of your product and service. He also emphasizes the power of the story. So you need to be able to tell a story, a persuasive story that will really resonate with your audience and help you make your point. In conclusion, Pitch Anything is a very comprehensive guide to delivering a persuasive and effective pitch. It emphasizes on framing, storytelling, and neuroscience of persuasion, and it provides all of us with a valuable toolkit for crafting a compelling narrative and making a powerful impression on your audience. So hope you like this insights from this amazing book, and I look forward to sharing some more in the next few days. Thank you so much. God bless. Thanks.